Hi, I'm Derek Acorah, and you're listening to Six Towns Radio.
Broadcasting to Stoke-on-Trent and the world. This is Six Towns Radio.
It's Terry Bossons for Six Towns Radio, out and about today with To Do Like, even though it's absolutely tanking down with rain. I'm joined by the UK's #1 spirit medium, Derek Acorah. Welcome.
Thank you, Terry. Nice to be with you.
Back in Stoke-on-Trent, of course, you come to Stoke-on-Trent a lot on tour, don't you? Is the crowd good?
The crowd is not just good, the crowd is normally so upbeat, so really for it, that it makes my evening so pleasurable to link with the spirit loved ones. You couldn't fault this audience. They are top-notch. I
first came across you on the Granada TV when it first went on to cable TV, wasn't it? They had the Granada Breeze, and
Granada Breeze,
and they seemed
like a family.
Yeah, they seemed to like that much. You were on every show.
Yeah, I when I first started in Granada Breeze, they asked me to come along just to do one particular evening, 1 hour live show, sitting with the lovely Becky Want, who was the presenter, who turned out to be a great friend, and I enjoyed it that much that I thought that would be it. But I got a call later on in the week from the producer of the programme saying, we'd like you to come in again. And I said, I'd love it, the following Friday, going out live 6 to 7. And then suddenly they said to me, we want you to come in on a regular basis. We'll sign you on a contract, like a rolling contract. And so that's what actually happened, and it went from 1 month to 6 months, from 6 months to 12 months, then it went on a yearly contract, and I did an amazing amount of shows with them, for them. Psychic Lifetime, the 2 shows, Wednesday, Friday, I did, and before then the Psychic Zone, out and about with Derek Acorah, going out to the haunted places for a small crew, fabulous, and a number of other things, the audience with Derek Acorah, and it was a dream for me. Yeah. And the people, all the people there, producers, directors, they were like a family. All the rest of the stuff I've done, I always look back to those early days. They were the real days.
You said you did so many different types of show. One that I remember was the live phone-in shows that you used to do. And they were really, really good, you know what I mean? Because it's totally different than actually meeting somebody and engaging in that way, having on the telephone and then having to connect with the spirit world. How did you find that?
Well, you know what? I thought it was, I loved it because what people didn't know is for years before, I was conducting telephone readings across the world for people who got... Although I had my office in Liverpool and I used to do private readings from there, I was just only around the corner from Radio Merseyside, and I was nipping in between doing Billy and Wally's show on the phone for people, and of course I was conducting those. So when they asked me, could I do it, I said, well, yes, I'm doing it. So, and I loved it. People were phoning from everywhere. Yeah. And to hear another, I had one man, he came on the phone, I think he was speaking from Dublin, and he said, I'll never forget him, he said, Derek, how on earth can you do this? And I said, it's through your voice vibration. I said, and it's just something I was able to do. And he said, it's amazing. He said this over there. It's absolutely amazing, Becky, he said, because the man has pinned it on a number of things here and that's going on in my life. And when he starts talking about my wife and how she passed over and she was with him there in the studios telling her, he said, it's just knocked me sideways. Thank you so much. I met that man later. He came to my live shows in Dublin at the Helix a number of times, and I got to know him, and we keep in touch with each other. So yeah, they're just fabulous days.
Yeah, this ride you've been along could have been so different. A Liverpool footballer, which must have been difficult coming in from a family of Evertonians.
Oh, absolutely, and that was the bane of my life when I said yes, to Bill Shankly and the coaches. My poor dad, who had been an Evertonian, like my Uncle Tom, Uncle Bill, Uncle Jim, all my uncles, 7 or 8 uncles, were all staunch toughies, Evertonians, and they couldn't take it more so than my dad. Especially Uncle Tom, who was a hairdresser, and he had the salon, he'd had a hairdressing salon for years, and both myself, my older brother Colin, and Dad used to go there regular and get our hair cut. And it's free of charge. And when he found out, he had the cheek and the audacity to tell my dad on the phone. When he phoned all my uncles that air signed, and Uncle Tom said, he's done what? You've let him sign for them. For Shankly, That's it, he said. He's not coming for a haircut here again. And my dad went ballistic over them. He said, what are you talking about, Tom? It's your nephew. You should be glad for him. Even though it's them and not the Blues haven't come for him. Anyway, Uncle Tom stuck to his guns, so Dad stopped going down altogether. However, the strange thing about it was I signed for Liverpool Football Club in the close season at Anfield. A crop of young players that they brought from all over the country will all come with our dads. Go into the trophy room and there is all the cups, and the iconic, the amazing man Vince Shelton walks in and he said, "Look, gentlemen, how are you?" And then, terrible accent, I know, Scottish, but then he spoke to us lads and he said, "You come to the greatest football side in the world, son. Every one of you. Be very proud, very proud." And then I heard my dad uttering something, and he overheard my dad, and he said, "Oh, Fred," that was his name. "Fred," he said, "you're a Nevertonian, are you? You're a toffee. Well, he's come to the greatest club." He said, "He'll turn out one day out there," he said, "on that turf," he said. "You'll be a very proud man. You'll turn beer red." And my dad just went like this. After we got home, Dad was despondent but glad. He was both. But the phone rang. And it was a man called Harry Cook, who was one of the head coaches at Everton Football Club. And he said, "Mr. Catrick has asked me to get in touch with you. Can I come down and see you? Very interested in your son. Sign him as an apprentice pro." And my dad just sunk to his knees. And he said, "You're joking. Are you winding me up? Who is this?" And he said, "It's Mr. Cook." "Oh, why? Anyway, do you want to come down?" My dad's thinking, "I'll get him out of this." He came down the next day. Then he told Harry Cook that I signed for Liverpool. And there was like he goes on the phone, whoever he was speaking to, he comes back and he said, "Fred," he said, "if he only signed 2 days ago, or a couple of days ago," he said, he might not be registered at Lytham St Anne's yet, and we can get him out of it." So he said, "Go on the phone, speak to Shanks." Somebody else said, "No, you spend." "No, I can't," he said. "I can't, I can't be seen to be here to, poaching and all that." So my dad goes on the phone, eventually gets through to Shanks. Bob Paisley answered the phone, and my dad said, "My son doesn't want to come to you. He's got to blaming me. Change of heart." Oh, I thought to my dad, that's lousy. "Anyway, I'll put you on to Mr. Shankly," he said, "but I'm afraid your son is a Liverpool player now." So Shanks going, "Oh, Fred, what's wrong? What's the problem?" And he said, "He's just changed his mind." "Well, is he not going to play football anymore?" And my dad said, "Well, he will, but he just changed his mind. He has been brought up as an Evertonian. He's never been in your ground. I've taken him to every club ground watching Everton over the years." And suddenly, so he said, "Hold on a minute." So he goes, and he comes back to the, "Well, Fred," he said, "I'm sorry." He said, "He's registered at Lytham St Anne's only this morning." So he said, "Okay then," puts the phone down, then comes back into the lounge because our phone was in the hallway, and he looked at Cook and he said, "He can't. He's registered." And he went, "Oh, okay. Well, best of luck to your son," he said. He said, "It would have been better if you come to our place, but never mind." And off he went. Yeah. My dad's on the phone to Uncle Tom and everyone. They hated me more, not hated me, but they're staunch supporters. And that was me, that was, with Liverpool Football Club. But however, I've got to point out, the time I was there, it was a fabulous club. Great manager, who talked to all the boys, no matter whether we were first teamers, and you were all a team. And the coaching, well, they were second to none. Bob, Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran when he come into coaching, Tom Bush, old Tom Bush, Ruben Bennett, they were all great people. And it broke my heart when I had to leave them. I don't mind admitting, I physically cried. I thought, my world's gone. I know I went on and I moved to other clubs. It was never the same. Yeah. I was at the greatest club ever.
Of course, yeah.
I've not been for a while, but
football is a religion, of course, still in Liverpool. Either Everton or Liverpool, and actually going over there.
I'm a Liverpool supporter now. Yeah. I always have been since I joined. I mean, in actual fact, I remember seeing Kenny Dalglish's lovely wife and Steve McMahon's wife come to my office when Kenny was out of football. I didn't know who she was. They just booked themselves in the first names, and I'd never seen them before. And of course, one came in after the other. And once I started doing the read, I could see that the woman that's sitting up was married to a footballer or ex-footballer. And when I got more information, and Kenny's relatives come through and told me it was Kenneth Dalglish. I tell you what I said. "You're Kenny Dalglish's wife?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay." Did the read, and she was pleased with it. And every reading in those days, I tape recorded, so people could take them away and listen to them a year later, 2 years, and see things happening, because I could get projected view of things to happen. And on the end of this tape, because I always remembered when they brought him back, and then they offered him the managementship this time round, I said on that tape, he will come back and try and rescue Liverpool Football Club. Now, they didn't need rescuing when she come for a reading. They were still doing, but it was, so she was very honest. She put it out to the domain. She told the papers, Liverpool Echo, it was in the Mirror. Not a big thing, but it's that Derek Acorah said, "We've got the tape recording still here."
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so Kenny was quite warm towards me in the sense, we texted each other when he signed. He said, "Thank you very much," and I said, "Just do it for them, Ken." Now, I was hurt, and I was shocked that his style of management didn't correct or do the things that Liverpool were looking for. Although I didn't think his record was bad in the short time he's with them. I don't think they give him long enough. However, I've been asked about our new manager. Maybe he's the breath of fresh air that we needed. I've always believed in football, purity of football, and I've always believed English football was devoid of technique in the coaching. The Continentals about the technique driven through them since they were in academies, and this Brendan Rodgers seems to be in that zone of mind that he did it with Swansea, who were just ordinary playing players, but he had them playing like Barcelona, push, first time football, bum, bum, bum. Now, if he's going to introduce that at Liverpool Football Club with new signings, unfortunately for Kenny, he signed a few that didn't perform for him, and he spent a lot of money on them. This man might clear them out. I'm not going to name names because that's not nice, but I want to say I'm just hoping that Brendan Rodgers is the breath of fresh air. If he is, fantastic.
A new era. Maybe.
A new era, yes. I think that's what we should call it.
Yeah, definitely. So from football, you went to Australia to play football, and then you came back, you did radio, TV with Granada, and then probably your biggest break again, Most Haunted. The viewing figures went through the roof, didn't they? What I mean? And with technology, because the night vision and all the other technology that came around, it must have opened new doors for yourself as a performer. And
it did. It gave us the opportunity to go afar. America and other countries doing the programme, and again, that was a new release, a breath of fresh air of doing investigative programmes at the level that we did, and a lot of stuff was new to me. All I did, plainly and simply, was use my mediumship. There was no acting there, that's for certain. I couldn't if you put a script in front of me, I couldn't remember 2 sections of words at one given time. Everything is natural, and living TV, especially the heads there, loved that about my way. And they said, the more you do this, the more you continue on, especially when Most Haunted then went live, and we did the big, massive lives. That really hit the scene. And to have all those live people there and going out and investigating, and it started to go in a different direction, which is normally it develops. But what was actually happening there, unfortunately to say this, that in its development, there was egos started to build around, and those egos at times could be rather intolerable. There certainly wasn't the ego with me, and it was noticed, and it started to affect the programme.
I do remember Most Haunted coming to Burslem, the Leopard Hotel in Burslem, which backs onto our studio. And it still does ghost tours now. Robbie Williams came down last year to have a look. So, the memories of things like that.
Robbie's interested in the paranormal,
Yeah, Stoke-on-Trent, another famous story from Stoke-on-Trent you might have heard of is the ghost of Molly Lee, Margaret Lee. That's a famous thing from Burslem where we are. And basically she was called the witch because she didn't go to church very often. I suppose in the 1700s.
Anyone you don't go to church, you're up to something, and it's not nice and it's dark. It's just like it's funny about when we were doing investigations, and especially where witchcraft had been conducted, it was hard to work out, unless you looked at the history of things, why those witches were, hung, quartered, done, burnt, and a lot of them were not witches. They were people who just did natural things. They made potions and out of herbs, which is natural. It's more holistic than anything, and yet they got targeted as being witches. However, in the day, there were practicing witches, nasty, horrible souls. But it was hard to separate and find out which, was which. So they were all thrown into the same. It's like mediumship now. When something bad gets said about a medium, that one thing then escalates and what have you, and then in that barrel of the good fruit is thrown the tainted one, and it taints everything in mediumship, which is sad and it's wrong. There are mediums, I've got to say, there are mediums in the world, not just in England, but there are mediums in the world, a lot of mediums who are very, very sincere, truthful, super truthful people who believe in the way and, tirelessly go on, no matter what gets said about them, no matter what hatred is said about them, through ignorance, through negative-minded people, jealous people, a mixed conundrum of reasons why people want to have a go at mediumship. And yet it's been here since year dot, if you like. In years gone by, mediumship was not called mediumship or even the word psychic. It was called the seer or the oracle, meaning using gifts outside themselves that the majority didn't have. It doesn't mean to say just a few odd people strewn about everywhere that the gifts were false, because they weren't. It's the truth. And even in the Bible you will hear of seers in the day. And yet in many religions, especially Catholicism, they downcast it and say, you don't touch it, it's the devil's work. And yet there it is in the Bible, and named the people who had these gifts. So a lot of it's hypocritical.
And you come to these different towns to put on your shows, and with the current economic climate, for instance, do you think people want to come, have a bit of a release from, having hard times, etc.?
Yeah.
I think that comes across.
I think it does. It's a mixed thing why people come. It's not just for that connection with the world of spirit. A lot of it is. One of the I'm sure you'd admit yourself, is that one of the hardest things for us all to cope with, to come to terms with, is the idea of death, the unknown. The vast majority, are not versed or conversed in the afterlife. So it's one of the hardest things for us to cope with. Losing a mum, dad, brothers. Well, for a mum to lose a son or a daughter who passes before them, most women can't cope with that. Children at birth, children to a lesser degree lost from the womb, miscarriage. Young people dying, so to speak, from cancer. They haven't been given a chance in life. All these things, they all are in people's minds. And I like to think that on evenings like this, apart from giving this evidence of survival in this demonstration, that people gain relief as well, a sense of healing as well. It can, in some cases, in many cases, if I'm talking to a person, bring closure to that person who's been carrying this burden for a long time. That alone is worth to that person so much, because they continue on with the life. How many times have I been to an evening and a person will see me after the show, because I always stay behind, do signs, say hello to people, have photographs, and they quietly say, before I came here, I planned to go and commit suicide. You've just stopped me from doing that. Thank you, and give me a hug. Because I've come to them and their loved one who's known.
Do you get people coming who have been sceptical at first and then...
A lot of those people come in. And, a lot of them are very honest. Because, again, they'll stay behind. They might be with a wife or a girlfriend, or they might be with another male. And they'll honestly tell you they were really not interested in coming. But they'd come along for have a laugh and see what nonsense gets talked about. And, they'll shake your hand and say, you've changed my mind. I'm going out of here. I've got to think in a different way. But thank you so much. I'll come again. I'm going to look into this now. So you get a mixed appraisal and mixed words, how different people handle it and choose to handle it. Like one man, many men, I didn't really want to come here tonight. My missus or my wife, whatever they want to call it, I wanted to go down the pub and have a drink with my mates, but she dragged me along here. And I've got to say this, one of the most interesting nights I've ever heard. It's just knocked me sideways. You were talking to a man that was next but one to me. It's my neighbour. I know all about his life. And everything you said was real.
Okay. Finally, just one thing I've always thought, and I wanted to ask you if you ever got the chance, and here we have it. Do you find it easy to switch off from it?
Yes, I do, because many years ago, my grandmother, who was a medium, she told me in my teenage years, young teenage years, that there is such a thing of closure. And she said it's a discipline. You must adhere. When you are working for the world of spirit, you've got to practice this opening and closing. If you don't, the spiritual energy, there's no time over there. The spirit people will come at you 24/7. You'll be walking in a store, you'll see spirit people with people. They'll know who you are. Not the people that they're standing with, but the spirit person will know and come over to you and say, hey, and you know, you've got to live your life when you're not doing spiritual work. So my grand showed me how to do it. And it's a simple prayer of invocation. Before, like I'm doing a show tonight, yeah? Half an hour before I go out there, I'll be sitting in this room quiet. And I go into what we call a semi-meditative state. Because that's all my thoughts are here. And it's then like a little cup, if you like, that starts to fill up with the energy coming in. I'm ready. I'm open to spiritual influence. When I close, I come in here and I close down with the prayer of invocation. So if a person says to me out in the passageway afterwards or in the foyer, if I'm doing signage, look, can you say anything? But I say, look, and I explain to them, what is it? It's protection, because protection for me to keep my vital energies. If they were coming at me 24/7, I would be drained of life's energies all the time. I probably wouldn't, well, I certainly wouldn't feel and look the way I look if I was to stay open. Yeah. I've seen mediums who've never known how to close. I've seen mediums, okay, who have known how to close, but they like the thrill of having spirit around them too long. Don't last very long. Start to get body ailments. And don't live long lives. And I want to stay with my wife and my family as long as I can. So I use that discipline. And it's kept me okay.
Well, you've enlightened me a lot about mediumship. I'm sure our listeners will agree. Thank you very much, Derek Acorah.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.